Chosen one, anchor your spirit to what I'm about to reveal, that whisper in your mind telling you it's too late. Silence it now. I know the last 72 hours have felt different, not just heavy, final, like you're standing at the edge of something massive, but you can't see what's on the other side. Maybe you were staring at your reflection yesterday morning, seeing exhaustion in your eyes that sleep couldn't fix, wondering if you missed your moment. Or maybe you found yourself at 4 in the morning this week, wide awake, feeling like everything you've been working toward just evaporated. Perhaps you were driving somewhere familiar and suddenly felt like a stranger in your own life. You feel suspended between who you were and who you're supposed to become. The enemy is working overtime right now for one reason only. He knows what God is about to do in the next 24 hours. It all shifts tomorrow. The silence, the waiting, the wondering if you heard God correctly. But here's what you need to understand. It's not shifting because of divine mercy. It's shifting because of what you did when no one was watching. Think back to that moment this week when everyone expected you to break, when the pressure was so intense you could barely breathe. But instead of collapsing, you whispered a prayer. You didn't know it then, but that prayer wasn't just heard. It was the exact moment heaven signed your promotion papers. You didn't delay your destiny. You activated it. You did not stumble across this message by chance. The algorithm didn't suggest this video. The Holy Spirit did. This is a divine interruption scheduled before you were born. You are about to receive intel that changes everything. Do not scroll away. The version of you that's been crying in private, wondering if God forgot your address, they need to hear what happens next. If you leave now, you leave before the verdict that validates every tear you've cried. In the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal the exact moment this week when you unknowingly triggered your breakthrough. I'm going to show you why God kept certain people away from you during this season, and it wasn't punishment. And at the end, I'm going to give you the declaration that seals this transition and opens the door to what's been waiting. I know what this season has felt like. You've been moving through your days like you're underwater. Every conversation feels muffled. Every opportunity feels just out of reach. The passion that used to drive you feels like it's been drained away. You feel invisible, not just to people, but to God Himself. And in this invisibility, the enemy has been whispering a very specific lie. Listen to the thoughts that come at 3 hours in the morning. He's telling you that your silence means God is silent. He's replaying that moment when you asked for a sign and got nothing. That moment when you prayed for a breakthrough and watched everything get worse instead. That moment when you stepped out in faith and fell flat on your face. The accuser is telling you that was proof. He's convincing you that God has moved on to someone more qualified, someone who doesn't make mistakes, someone who doesn't struggle with doubt. But I need you to hear what Isaiah 55:11 actually says about your situation. So shall my word be that goes forth from my mouth. It shall not return to me void, but it shall accomplish what I please, and it shall prosper in the thing for which I sent it. Listen to that promise. It shall not return void, not might return with results. Not hopefully will accomplish something, shall accomplish what He pleases. Every prayer you whispered in desperation, every moment you chose faith when fear was screaming, none of it was wasted. All of it was sent with purpose, and all of it is about to return with exactly what God intended. The silence you've been interpreting as abandonment was actually preparation. God wasn't ignoring your prayers. He was clearing the stage for your answer to be undeniable. You think your struggle disqualified you. You think your moments of doubt proved you weren't chosen. But let me reframe your reality right now. That wasn't weakness. That was refinement. God didn't allow the pressure to break you. He allowed it to prepare you for a blessing so big that the old version of you couldn't have carried it. The isolation you felt wasn't rejection. It was protection. God was keeping you away from people and opportunities that would have given you good enough when He was preparing to give you exceedingly abundantly above all you could ask or think. Every door that closed in your face wasn't God saying no. It was God saying not yet, because what He's about to open requires the person you've become through the waiting. Tomorrow, everything shifts, not because you've suffered long enough, but because you've been prepared completely. The shock is coming, and it's going to silence every voice that counted you out. We often fixate on the calendar, charting the days, weeks, and months, yearning for a specific date on which the heavens will break open and our long-awaited blessing will descend. But the divine orchestration at play transcends mere chronological ticking. There is a profound, alchemical transformation unfolding within the very core of your spiritual being, a sacred process that often goes unnoticed by the casual observer, shrouded in the mundane struggles of daily life. You, in your earnest prayers, have repeatedly brought before the Creator the fervent plea, "Lord, when will my breakthrough manifest? When will this season of barrenness yield to a harvest?" Yet, the very heart of the Father's response gently redirects your gaze. The pivotal inquiry isn't about the when of His divine timing, for His clock operates on an entirely different dimension, far removed from human impatience. The true soul-piercing question for you right now, in this precise threshold moment, is this: what will you do with the immense sacred authority He is poised to place, with deliberate intention, into your hands? This isn't just about receiving a blessing, it's about inheriting a mandate, a stewardship, a tangible empowerment that will enable you to shift atmospheres, speak life into deserts, and walk in a dimension of spiritual power that few ever dare to imagine. It's an authority to command, to decree, to dismantle, and to build, all in alignment with His sovereign will. For too long, you have approached this prolonged season with the natural human inclination to be on the receiving end, expecting a sudden influx of tangible blessings or external vindication from the hand of God. You believed it was a period for Him to give you something external, to deliver a package of grace or an immediate escape route. But the divine architect of your journey had a far more intricate and enduring plan unfolding. This entire season, replete with its trials, its silences, and its perceived setbacks, has not primarily been about God giving you something from the outside, but rather about Him diligently, meticulously, and profoundly depositing something invaluable deep within the very fiber of your being. Consider the countless instances when you felt utterly overlooked, abandoned in the shadow of obscurity, perhaps even questioning if your name was still etched in the heart of the Father. In those desolate valleys of feeling forgotten, He was not absent. Instead, He was actively, precisely, and intimately downloading profound wisdom into your spirit. A wisdom forged in the crucible of solitude and humility, a discernment that could never have been acquired through intellectual pursuit or conventional education. It was the wisdom of Job, understanding the sovereignty of God beyond comprehension, the wisdom of Daniel, navigating hostile environments with divine insight. Similarly, during those long, restless nights when sleep evaded you and your mind replayed anxious thoughts, wondering if that still small voice was truly His, or merely the echo of your own desires or fears. In those vulnerable moments, He was patiently, tenderly tutoring your spirit. He was refining your spiritual ear, teaching it to discern the unmistakable frequency of His voice amidst the cacophony of worldly opinions, the clamor of self-doubt, and the insistent whispers of the enemy. He was sharpening your inner compass, ensuring you could differentiate His truth from every deceptive counterfeit. And in every single instance, when your natural eyes beheld circumstances that screamed impossibility, painting a bleak canvas of despair and defeat, yet you, by an act of sheer defiant will, chose faith, In those critical junctures, God was not merely observing. He was actively, dynamically building and fortifying an unparalleled spiritual muscle within you. This is not the ephemeral strength of the flesh, but the resilient, unyielding power of the spirit. A muscle developed through consistent exercise in the face of adversity, through unwavering trust when logic failed. This robust spiritual capacity is not for mere display. It is being meticulously crafted and honed because it is on the verge of being rigorously tested, called upon to perform feats of faith and resilience that will astonish both you and the world around you. This season was your spiritual gymnasium, preparing you for the marathon ahead. Reflect for a moment on the transformative encounter of Moses at the burning bush, an archetype of divine initiation and preparation. When he encountered the unconsumed flame on Mount Horeb, he wasn't simply being handed a scroll with a divine job description. No, the burning bush was far more than a mere commissioning. It was an immersive boot camp, an intense preparatory phase designed to equip him for the sheer, overwhelming magnitude of the calling that was about to be laid upon his shoulders. Consider the journey that led him there. 40 years in the desolate wilderness, tending sheep, an exile from the grandeur of Pharaoh's court, a man stripped of his former identity and earthly credentials. During those decades of perceived insignificance, God was subtly, silently, yet profoundly shaping his character, stripping away the arrogance of an Egyptian prince and instilling the humility of a shepherd. He was learning patience, resilience, and dependence on something far greater than himself. The very same omnipotent God who spoke to Moses from the heart of that miraculous, unyielding fire in the solitude of the desert, was poised to manifest earth-shattering miracles through Moses' very hands, to unleash plagues upon Egypt, to command the very waters of the Red Sea to divide, creating a pathway through the impossible. But for Moses to become that vessel, to operate in such profound, unprecedented power, he first had to cultivate an intimate, unwavering relationship with the divine voice. He had to learn, painstakingly, to distinguish and trust God's subtle whisper in the profound silence and stillness of the wilderness, long before he could be expected to rely on that same voice amidst the deafening roar of Pharaoh's chariots, the terrified cries of a trapped nation, and the tumultuous chaos of a parting sea. His wilderness years were not a waste. They were the essential classroom where his spiritual ears were tuned and his heart was anchored, ensuring that when the external pandemonium erupted, his internal compass, guided by God's voice, would remain absolutely true. This echoes the truth that the most powerful public demonstrations of God often follow the most profound private preparations. Understand this deeply within your spirit. You, my friend, have just completed, or are at the very apex of, your own profoundly significant burning bush season. You've experienced the divine encounters, the subtle nudges, the unexpected illuminations in your personal wilderness. You felt the refining fire, perhaps even the feeling of being stripped bare, just as Moses was. You've had moments of profound spiritual clarity, interspersed with periods of stark questioning, learning to hear and trust the voice of the eternal within your quietest moments. Now, brace yourself, for the very fabric of your reality is about to shift dramatically. As the sun rises tomorrow, or perhaps in the coming days, you are poised to step across a momentous threshold, entering what I call your Red Sea season. This isn't merely a symbolic shift, it's a prophetic declaration. Just as the Red Sea represented an impossible barrier, transformed into a path of liberation and a conduit for divine glory, your next season will be marked by the undeniable manifestation of God's power in circumstances that once appeared utterly insurmountable. And every single agonizing moment, every frustrating detour, every perceived setback, every instance that tasted like an unbearable delay in the unfolding of your destiny. Understand this with unwavering clarity. Every single one of those experiences was not a hindrance. It was, in fact, a meticulous, sovereign, and intensely personal divine preparation. Each waiting period was a forging, each challenge a sharpening, each tear a watering of the seed of destiny. All of it, without exception, was purposefully orchestrated by the hand of God to ready you, to mature you, and to perfectly align you for the unprecedented and breathtaking miraculous phenomena that are now about to flow effortlessly and powerfully through your yielded life, impacting not just you, but everyone in your sphere of influence. The foundation has been laid, the vessel has been shaped. Now, allow me to present a truth, a candid and often uncomfortable reality that many prefer to sidestep or dismiss. This is a profound spiritual insight that can reshape your entire perspective on your journey. The persistent, gnawing sensation that your breakthrough has been interminably delayed, that the divine clock seems to be stubbornly stuck. This feeling does not originate from a God who has suddenly become forgetful, nor from a divine oversight. It is not because his love has waned or his promises are conditional on some arbitrary metric you haven't met. The often unspoken truth, the core reason for this prolonged preparation, is this: you have been, perhaps unknowingly, attempting to stride confidently into the expansive, glorious territory of your God-ordained destiny while still encumbered by significant, heavy baggage. This isn't physical luggage, but spiritual and emotional burdens, unhealed wounds, limiting beliefs, toxic attachments, unforgiveness, ingrained insecurities, and even outdated coping mechanisms that once served you but are now detrimental. These spiritual anchors, though familiar, are far too cumbersome and insidious. Had God released your full breakthrough prematurely, allowing you to enter the elevated sphere of your destiny carrying these destructive weights, they would not have merely slowed you down. They would have, with devastating certainty, consumed you from within, sabotaging your purpose, fracturing your character, and ultimately leading to a catastrophic collapse once you arrived at the very place you longed to be. Think of a hot air balloon preparing for flight. It cannot ascend to majestic heights if its basket is laden with unnecessary ballast. God, in his infinite wisdom and boundless love, knew this. He wasn't withholding, he was protecting and pruning. He knew that the very blessings you longed for would become curses if your inner vessel was not properly prepared to contain and steward them. This period of seeming dormancy, this invisible season shrouded in ambiguity, has been God's masterclass in divine surgery, a meticulous process of stripping away, one by one, every single element in your life that, on the surface, presented itself as a blessing or a comfort, but was, in its insidious reality, a profound form of spiritual or emotional bondage. Consider those connections, that intimate relationship which, in moments, felt like the deepest wellspring of love and connection, but subtly, relentlessly siphoned off your inner peace, leaving you depleted, anxious, and spiritually exhausted. It masked itself as intimacy, but was a chain, or that gleaming opportunity, seemingly an undeniable sign of divine favor, promising prestige or prosperity, yet upon closer examination, you felt a subtle but insistent nudge that accepting it would necessitate a compromise of your core values, a dilution of your sacred calling, or a deviation from the path God had distinctly set for you. It was a golden cage, not an open door. And what about that friendship, or perhaps a circle of acquaintances that appeared to offer robust support and camaraderie, yet beneath the surface, it subtly but consistently nurtured your deepest insecurities, affirmed your limiting beliefs, and stifled your true potential. It was a mirror reflecting your fears, not your future. Understand this with absolute clarity. God did not orchestrate the removal of these attachments, these relationships, these opportunities as a punitive measure. He was not punishing you for past errors or present imperfections. His actions were born purely out of a profound, protective and prescient love. He removed them not to cause pain, but to prevent far greater harm. He divinely intervened and severed these ties because he knows precisely where he is taking you. Where you are headed, to the elevated plains of your destiny, to the expansive landscape of your purpose, you simply cannot afford to carry any weight, any attachment, any mindset, any person, or any pursuit that does not originate from his pure, holy, and life-giving presence. Every removed item was a necessary shedding, lightening your load for the ascent, ensuring the purity and integrity of the vessel he has chosen. The profound sense of isolation you may have endured, that aching emptiness where connections once thrived or where new ones seemed perpetually out of reach, this was never an act of divine rejection. Let that truth permeate your very soul, banishing every whisper of abandonment. You were not forgotten. You were not cast aside. What felt like rejection was, in God's masterful design, a period of intensely purposeful, selective preparation. Imagine a potter meticulously clearing his workspace, removing all lesser vessels and distracting clutter before he sets to fashion his masterpiece. That has been your experience. God was actively, intentionally, and lovingly creating sacred space within your life. Not merely emptiness, but fertile ground. He was making room, not for just any people or any opportunities, but specifically for those individuals whose spirits are aligned with yours, whose hearts can genuinely celebrate your ascendancy without envy, and whose wisdom can truly contribute to your growth without hidden agendas. He was preparing pathways for opportunities that are not only perfectly tailored for your unique gifts, but are also robust enough to genuinely handle, embrace, and elevate the magnificent, empowered, and fully realized version of yourself that is now, undeniably, on the very cusp of emerging. This is a version of you unburdened, unfiltered, operating in unparalleled clarity and divine authority. The solitude was a crucible, forging the strength and discernment required to attract and sustain only those connections and platforms that truly resonate with your authentic, God-breathed purpose. It was a divine calibration, ensuring that your next season would be one of authentic alignment, not accidental encounters. And here we arrive at the very heart of the matter, the critical juncture, the undeniable turning point in your spiritual odyssey. The long, often arduous season of waiting that has stretched before you, appearing endless at times, is now definitively over. This is not merely a change in external circumstances. It is a profound internal metamorphosis that has reached its completion. The very essence of who you were, the person who initially stepped into this demanding season, is fundamentally and irrevocably different from the magnificent, empowered individual who is now poised to gloriously exit it. A transformation has occurred at a foundational level. You, in your human perspective, may have genuinely believed that God was primarily occupied with testing the steadfastness of your faithfulness, meticulously scrutinizing your obedience in the face of adversity and examining the unwavering nature of your devotion. While elements of testing are always part of the journey, his primary, deeper work was far more dynamic and empowering. He was, in truth, actively downloading your authority, embedding within your spirit a new level of spiritual power, a divine mandate, an inherent capacity to influence, to command, and to manifest his will on earth. This is an authority that transcends human titles or positions. It is spirit-given. Similarly, you might have interpreted the prolonged periods of quiet and the unanswered prayers as God meticulously measuring the depth of your patience, seeing how long you could endure without complaint or wavering. But again, while patience is a virtue, his deeper purpose was infinitely more strategic. He was actively and intentionally building an unshakable confidence in his voice within you. He was training your inner ear, honing your discernment, and cementing your absolute trust in his guidance, ensuring that when the roar of the Red Sea comes, you will hear his whisper above it all, clear and undeniable, ready to step out in audacious faith. The waiting was not empty. It was filled with divine impartation, culminating in an inner fortitude that is now ready for public manifestation. Before we delve further, prepare your heart for a revelation that will reframe your recent experiences. In just a few moments, I'm going to pinpoint a specific, perhaps seemingly ordinary moment that transpired this very week. A precise juncture when you, perhaps completely unaware of its profound significance, unknowingly activated the very spiritual mechanics of your transition. This wasn't a grand, overt ceremony, but a subtle yet powerful shift within your spirit that signaled a divine green light. It is absolutely crucial that you stay with me, remaining fully present for this insight, because truly recognizing and internalizing the nature of that specific moment is the master key. It will unlock your deeper understanding of how God operates, enabling you to clearly discern when He is orchestrating monumental shifts in your life, even when the external landscape appears utterly static, even when there are no visible tremors or dramatic external indications of His profound underlying movement. His greatest work is often done in the unseen, and learning to perceive it is the mark of a truly discerning spirit. This is a crucial distinction that eludes the majority of sincere seekers, a common misconception about the very nature of divine timing and the manifestation of breakthrough. Many envision breakthrough as a sudden, cataclysmic event, a dramatic, instantaneous showering of blessings, complete with metaphorical fireworks exploding in the sky, undeniable trumpet blasts, and overt, unambiguous signs that leave no room for doubt. They anticipate a divine sledgehammer shattering their limitations in one visible, spectacular blow. However, the profound truth is that authentic, God-orchestrated breakthrough very frequently manifests not with external fanfare, but with a deep, pervasive and quiet confidence that emanates from within. It's an inner knowing that settles like a quiet storm. It looks like the unshakable certainty of knowing precisely who you are in Christ, understanding your divine identity and the unyielding promises over your life, even when your immediate circumstances, your bank account, your relationships, or your current environment have not yet visibly aligned with or caught up to that profound internal reality. It manifests as an effortless ability to move and act with an undeniable authority, a spiritual gravitas that you cannot logically explain, an inner power that transcends your resume or your past experiences. It's a holy boldness. Furthermore, it reveals itself in the uncanny clarity with which you begin to make decisions, choices that flow from a wellspring of profound wisdom, a discernment so deep and insightful that you don't actually recall having consciously learned it through traditional means. This isn't intellectual acquisition, it's divine impartation, a download from the very mind of God, equipping you with insights far beyond your years or earthly experience. This is the quiet revolution that precedes the public miracle. That undeniable, subtle yet powerful shift that you've been sensing deep within your spirit. Perhaps even a quiet, internal rumble that signaled something profound was changing. Pay close attention to it. This wasn't a figment of your imagination. It was a tangible marker of transition. Perhaps on Tuesday, you found yourself in the presence of that individual who typically triggers your anxieties, whose mere gaze used to send shivers of intimidation down your spine. Yet this time, you spoke differently. Your voice carried an unfamiliar steadiness, Your words flowed with an uncharacteristic self-possession, emanating from a place of inner authority rather than timid deference. Or maybe it was Thursday, when confronted with a critical choice, a crossroads laden with potential consequences, you instinctively made a decision, not from the familiar grip of fear or the anxious need to control the outcome, but from a profound, anchoring sense of peace that surpassed all logical understanding, a peace that simply settled over you like a divine blanket. Or perhaps, just yesterday, you encountered a situation, a challenge that in any previous season would have sent you spiraling into overwhelming stress, anxiety, or despair. But this time, something was different. As you observed the complexity, the potential chaos, you felt a surprising, almost inexplicable calm wash over you, an inner stillness that allowed you to perceive the situation with clarity rather than panic. This internal recalibration, these subtle yet significant alterations in your responses and your bearing, are not accidental. They are the clear, undeniable fingerprints of divine intervention. What you experienced in those moments, that newfound assertiveness, that supernatural peace, that unexpected calm, transcends the realm of mere personal growth, valuable though that may be. It was not simply a result of more self-help techniques or a stronger resolve. What you felt was profound, irrefutable evidence that the anointing, the divine empowerment and sacred unction resting upon your life has definitively shifted into a new, higher gear. Imagine a finely tuned engine previously operating at a certain capacity, now engaging a more powerful ratio, generating greater torque and speed with less effort. That is the spiritual reality unfolding within you. The very same Holy Spirit, the breathtaking, life-giving Spirit of God, who wielded the power to raise Jesus Christ triumphantly from the cold grip of death, shattering the chains of the grave and overcoming all darkness. That very Spirit is now actively and intentionally manifesting unprecedented new levels of his resurrection power, not just in dramatic, miraculous displays, but profoundly, powerfully and practically through your seemingly mundane, everyday decisions. Every choice you now make in alignment with his promptings, every word you speak from this place of quiet confidence carries an amplified weight, a divine potency. Your daily walk is becoming a conduit for his transformative power, turning ordinary moments into extraordinary demonstrations of his indwelling presence. You are not just living, you are living anointed, dynamically infused with the very life and power of God himself. This is a crucial pivot in your understanding and perception. The paradigm of waiting must now be completely dismantled from your spiritual framework. You are no longer passively waiting, suspended in a state of hopeful anticipation for some future event to materialize. The season of stagnant waiting has expired. Instead, the profound spiritual truth, the liberating revelation for your heart, is this: breakthrough itself is now actively waiting for you. It is waiting for you to awaken to its reality, to consciously perceive, acknowledge, and wholeheartedly embrace the profound truth that it has already begun to unfurl. It's not a future arrival, it's a present reality that is unfolding moment by moment within and around you. The initial ripples have been cast. The first rays of the dawn are breaking through the night sky. Your breakthrough is not an event on a distant horizon. It is the dawning recognition that the shift has already taken place within your spirit, and the external manifestations are simply catching up to the internal transformation. It is waiting for your spiritual eyes to open, for your heart to believe, and for your mind to align with the profound truth that the new season, the season of open heavens and accelerated favor, has been initiated. It's a divine invitation to step fully into what is already activated. However, it is precisely at this pivotal juncture, on the very precipice of your greatest breakthroughs, that the spiritual landscape often becomes most intensely challenging. As you draw nearer to the fulfillment of God's promises, understand that there is an opposing force, an ancient adversary, whose intelligence about your destiny is far more advanced than you might imagine. The enemy, that cunning master of deception, is acutely aware of the monumental shift that is imminently about to unfold in your life, sensing the imminent manifestation of your divine purpose. This heightened awareness from the enemy is precisely why this past week, or perhaps recent days, has felt like an unprecedented surge of spiritual warfare, an intense, relentless assault on your mind, emotions, and spirit on a level you may have never experienced before. Remember those insidious, demoralizing thoughts that seem to emerge from nowhere, whispering narratives of defeat, screaming at you to simply surrender, to abandon your hope, to give up on everything you've believed for. Those weren't random internal struggles. Recall that sudden, irrational urge to sever ties, to impulsively burn bridges with the very people who have faithfully stood by you, consistently offering support, encouragement, and a safe harbor during your wilderness season. That wasn't just frustration. And what about that overwhelming, suffocating feeling, that deep-seated conviction that you are fundamentally unqualified, inherently incapable, or simply not good enough to step into the grand, audacious calling that God has so clearly placed upon your life? These are not mere coincidences or psychological quirks. Let me emphasize this truth with unwavering conviction. Absolutely none of those unsettling experiences, none of those disruptive thoughts, none of those sudden emotional tidal waves were accidental or random occurrences. Every single one of them was meticulously calculated, strategically deployed by the enemy with surgical precision. This was not a chaotic, disorganized attack. It was a highly sophisticated, last-ditch effort to destabilize you. The adversary's core objective, his cunning scheme, was singularly focused on one outcome: to provoke you, to manipulate you, to deceive you into disqualifying yourself. He wanted you to internalize those lies, to accept the narrative of your unworthiness, to believe that you were somehow unfit or undeserving of the imminent blessings. He sought to create such profound internal turmoil and self-doubt that you would, by your own volition, walk away from the finish line, relinquish your claim, and abandon your post right before the grand ceremony, right before the moment your diploma, representing the culmination of all your preparation and perseverance, was to be triumphantly placed into your hands. He wanted you to tear up your own graduation certificate before it was even issued, convincing you to retreat from the very victory God had already secured for you. He knows that if he can't stop God, he'll try to get you to stop yourself. But here is the profound irony, the glorious miscalculation that the enemy, in all his diabolical cunning, utterly failed to anticipate or account for. What he overlooked, what he completely underestimated, was the deep, unshakable fortitude and the divine character that God himself meticulously forged and embedded within you during that long, arduous, invisible season. He saw your outward struggles, but he failed to see the powerful internal alchemy. You did not merely survive the crushing weight of pressure and adversity, you transcended it. In the very furnace of affliction, where many would buckle and break, you learned a sacred art. You learned to worship through it. You discovered the potent weapon of praise, raising your voice in adoration even when your heart ached, recognizing that worship shifts atmospheres and declares God's sovereignty over every circumstance. You didn't just passively endure the relentless onslaught of doubt, the insidious whispers that sought to erode your faith. You confronted it with divine authority. You learned to actively, audaciously decree truth over every lie, speaking forth the promises of God, wielding the sword of the Spirit, and declaring his unchanging word as the ultimate reality, thereby dismantling the enemy's strongholds in your mind. And you certainly didn't just languish in passive waiting through the profound, often deafening silence of God, where answers seemed elusive and his presence felt distant. No, you learned a far more profound lesson. You learned to actively steward faithfulness in that very silence. You remained consistent, dedicated and obedient, trusting his character even when his hand was not immediately visible, proving your loyalty and commitment in the absence of tangible reward. This was not just perseverance, it was proactive spiritual warfare waged in the heart, and it has activated something unstoppable. And precisely because you chose to worship through the pressure, to decree truth over the doubt, and to steward faithfulness in the silence, because you passed these profound spiritual tests, a monumental, irreversible shift has occurred in the heavenly realm. Imagine the unseen cosmos responding to your obedience. Angelic hosts, mighty celestial beings who have been specifically assigned by God to usher in your breakthrough, yet have been patiently awaiting your spiritual maturity, awaiting the moment your character could withstand the weight of the blessing. Those very angels have just received their divine signal. They are now actively moving, deployed and accelerating towards you, ready to execute their assignments. Think of doors, massive gates of opportunity, influence and provision that have remained firmly locked, sealed, until the exact moment you possess the inner fortitude, the wisdom and the integrity required to responsibly handle the immense blessings and responsibilities that lie beyond them. Those very doors have just heard the unmistakable resounding click of divine permission, signaling their imminent opening. The unseen mechanisms of destiny are now fully engaged. Furthermore, there are individuals, prophets, intercessors, mentors and partners strategically placed by God who have been fervently praying for someone exactly like you, someone with your specific anointing, your unique vision, your seasoned character, to emerge and step into their designated role. Those faithful intercessors have just received a powerful, undeniable confirmation in their spirits that their long-standing prayers are not only about to be answered, but are directly connecting with your trajectory. Their faith is now aligning with your manifestation, creating a powerful synergy in the spirit. This is a cosmic alignment, a synchronicity orchestrated by the Creator himself, all because of your faithful endurance. In the very next moment, prepare yourself for a profound revelation, a truth so illuminating that it promises to utterly reframe and revolutionize everything you thought you understood about your true purpose and the divine design for your life. This isn't just another insight. It's a foundational recalibration of your spiritual compass. Do not avert your gaze. Do not allow any distraction to pull your focus, for what is about to be unveiled is a key that will unlock a deeper dimension of self-understanding and divine destiny. The profound, awe-inspiring shockwave that is poised to reverberate through your life, commencing as early as tomorrow, will extend far beyond mere restoration. While God's faithfulness to restore all that was lost or stolen is absolute, this impending manifestation is of an even grander, more deeply satisfying nature. It is about divine vindication. This is the moment when the scales of justice are not just balanced, but tipped irrevocably in your favor. Prepare for a glorious reversal. Every single individual who ever dismissed you, who doubted your potential, who counted you out, relegating you to the sidelines of their expectations, those very individuals are about to become undeniable witnesses. They will see, with their own eyes, the stunning, undeniable reality of what God has been meticulously, lovingly and powerfully building within you and around you, entirely in secret, away from the prying eyes of skepticism and criticism. Every cynical voice that dared to whisper that you were too broken, too damaged by past wounds, every pronouncement that declared you were too late to fulfill your dreams, that your season had passed, Every condescending remark that labeled you as merely too ordinary, too common, too unremarkable for anything truly extraordinary, all of those dismissive, limiting voices are about to be utterly, completely, and irrevocably silenced. They will be silenced, not by your arguments or your defensive words, but by the overwhelming, undeniable, and irrefutable evidence of God's abundant supernatural favor manifest in your life. This will be a testimony so potent, so visible, that it will leave no room for doubt, proving once and for all that God truly takes pleasure in elevating the humble and confounding the proud. It's not just about what you get back. It's about who you become in the process and the public acknowledgement of His hand upon you. Yet, even as the anticipation of vindication and breakthrough swells, it is vital to pause and grasp a profound, often overlooked truth concerning the inherent weight and sacred trust of carrying such divine favor. Breakthrough, while glorious, is not merely a destination of ease, it is a new level of stewardship. Understand that blessing does not merely bring comfort, it exponentially increases responsibility. With greater divine endowment comes a greater mandate to serve, to give, to lead, and to walk with integrity. Similarly, divine favor, though a magnificent grace, simultaneously amplifies scrutiny. When the light of God's favor shines brightly upon you, it illuminates not only your successes, but also every aspect of your character, inviting both admiration and critical examination from all quarters, human and spiritual. And make no mistake, promotion in the kingdom of God, an elevation to a higher platform or a broader sphere of influence, invariably intensifies the enemy's attention. The adversary becomes more cunning, more relentless, knowing that your impact has expanded. But here is the comforting, foundational truth. The very same omniscient God who is, in this precise season, orchestrating your elevation, is the exact same God who has been diligently and intimately working within you, preparing you with meticulous care. He has been forging your character, fortifying your spirit, and deepening your roots in Him, ensuring that you are not merely given elevation, but are also fully equipped to handle that elevation with humility, integrity, and grace, without ever losing the anchor of your soul in His truth. His preparation was not just for the breakthrough itself, but for the sustained stewardship of it. This profound principle, that divine preparation precedes public manifestation, explains the logical spiritual necessity of your preceding season. This is precisely why the intensive, often uncomfortable process of character development was an absolute prerequisite that had to unfold and solidify within you before any significant platform expansion or public ministry could genuinely and sustainably materialize. God doesn't just hand out power, He builds a vessel capable of holding it. It is also why the deep, often painful heart surgery, the process of healing old wounds, releasing unforgiveness, and purifying your motives, was an essential operation that had to be completed before the abundant harvest season could fully burst forth in your life. A damaged vessel cannot contain the bounty. Furthermore, this illuminates why God, in His profound wisdom and protective love, meticulously dealt with any subtle or overt manifestations of pride, self-reliance, or ego within the sacred private confines of your hidden life. He performed this internal cleansing precisely so that when the time came for your public unveiling, you would be able to walk not in your own strength or for your own glory, but with authentic, undeniable, and uncorrupted power in public, all for His glory. Every step of this hidden process was intentional, designed to build a foundation so solid that when the winds of fame, influence, or opposition inevitably blow, you will stand unshaken, rooted in humility and divine authority. He cultivated you in the secret place to showcase His glory in the public square. You need to recognize and celebrate this pivotal milestone. You did not merely survive your wilderness season, clinging to the bare threads of hope and enduring its desolate stretches. No, your journey through the barren landscape was far more profound than mere survival. You have, in essence, truly graduated from it. This is a monumental achievement, signifying that you have traversed every required course, you have passed every rigorous test, you have absorbed every crucial lesson, and you have emerged transformed, fully equipped and deeply matured. You are no longer a student grappling with fundamental principles. You are a master, prepared to apply what you've learned. And just as in any significant academic or professional journey, graduation ceremonies are not typically solitary events. They are public acknowledgements, celebrated not in isolation, but with witnesses. The universe itself, the angelic host, and indeed many around you, are poised to bear witness to this monumental transition. Your season of hidden preparation is concluding, and the time for public affirmation, for visible testimony of God's faithfulness and your endurance, is now at hand. This is not just a personal victory, it is a public declaration of God's redemptive power. Now prepare yourself for an insight that may profoundly shift your perception, a truth that often remains hidden in the blind spots of even the most sincere spiritual seekers. This is the unexpected twist in the narrative of your journey, the subtle yet powerful barrier that has perhaps been the most persistent impediment to the full manifestation of your breakthrough. For a long time, you may have wrestled with the gnawing suspicion that your past mistakes, those regrettable choices and missteps, were the primary obstacles, acting as a divine blockade to your blessings. Or perhaps you attributed the delay to a perceived lack of qualifications, feeling inherently inadequate or insufficiently prepared for the magnitude of your calling. You might even have, understandably, pointed to the wounds inflicted by others, the betrayals and hurts, as the unyielding walls preventing your progress. While these factors can certainly impact our journey, they are not, at their core, the fundamental blockage. The deepest, most pervasive, and often unrecognized barrier has been your own subtle yet profound inability to truly, fully, and freely receive that which you did not, and indeed could never, earn. It's a paradox of grace. The very act of trying to earn what is freely given becomes the barrier to its reception. This deeply ingrained resistance to unmerited favor is a more potent force than any external opposition you've faced. Delve deeper into the root of this resistance, for it often stems from an insidious, deeply embedded poverty mindset that continues to subtly govern your spirit, even as you strive for abundance. This mindset dictates an unspoken spiritual economy where you believe that every blessing, every advancement, every manifestation from God must first be meticulously earned through tireless effort, religious performance, self-sacrifice, or rigorous spiritual discipline. It whispers that you must pay a price, exert immense labor, or somehow prove your worthiness before God will bestow His gifts. But this is an anachronism in the kingdom of grace. Let us dismantle this false paradigm with the illuminating truth of Scripture and divine reality. Grace, at its very core, is the scandalous, breathtaking, and utterly undeserved love of God. It means receiving, with open hands and a humbled heart, precisely what you could never possibly deserve, what no amount of human striving or good works could ever procure. It is a gift, pure and unadulterated. Favor, in its divine essence, signifies a blessing so potent, so sovereignly appointed, that it entirely bypasses your human resume, your list of accomplishments, your academic credentials, or your worldly reputation. It is an unmerited advantage, a divine preference that elevates you not based on what you've done, but on who God has declared you to be. And your calling, your inherent God-breathed purpose, is not a conditional reward. It is a profound truth, a sacred identity that exists entirely independent of your fluctuating performance, your temporary failures, or your perceived successes. It is a divine imprint, an eternal blueprint woven into the fabric of your being from before time began. These are not earned, they are simply received through faith in His unfathomable love. Herein lies the profound, liberating paradox. The precise moment you consciously and decisively cease your exhaustive, self-imposed efforts to earn that which God, in His sovereign grace and boundless love, has already definitively decided to bestow upon you. That very moment marks the true genesis of its manifestation. It is the spiritual release that unleashes the flow. Until then, you remain in a self-constructed bottleneck, inadvertently blocking the very blessings you crave. Consider this vivid imagery. You have been standing steadfastly before monumental doors of destiny, meticulously crafted and divinely appointed for your entrance, but in a subtle yet significant error, you have been exerting all your energy pulling on them, frantically trying to yank them open. Yet these doors are designed to swing inward, activated by a gentle push of faith and surrender. Your strenuous efforts of pulling, born from a mindset of earning and striving, have only reinforced their closure. You have been tirelessly working, striving, laboring under the illusion that your personal output dictates divine input, instead of simply receiving with an open, trusting heart the abundance that is freely offered. You have been trapped in a cycle of performance, constantly feeling the pressure to prove your worthiness or earn your place, rather than simply resting in the profound, unwavering truth of who He has already declared and called you to be. This is a call to cease striving and begin abiding, to transition from a mentality of labor to a posture of loving reception. The shift is from human effort to divine flow, from self-reliance to God-dependence. And this, my friend, is the undeniable, uncompromising truth that must anchor itself deep within your spirit. Until this fundamental, foundational paradigm shift occurs within your innermost being, until you can genuinely, wholeheartedly, and without reservation, receive your imminent breakthrough not as a meticulously earned reward for your tireless efforts or impeccable performance, but purely as an unmerited, extravagant gift of God's grace and unfailing love. Until that profound, internal transformation takes root, nothing else in your external reality will truly, fully, and sustainably shift. The external manifestation is inextricably linked to this internal posture of reception. All the striving, all the fervent prayer, all the diligent work will be met with an invisible resistance until you unlock the power of unearned grace. This mindset of pure reception, of humble gratitude for a gift, is the spiritual linchpin. It is the master key that opens all other doors. Embrace this truth and watch the floodgates open. So tonight, as the day draws to a close and you prepare to enter the sacred stillness of rest, I invite you to engage in a powerful, transformative act of faith. Take a moment, find a quiet space, and with deliberate intention, place your hand firmly over your heart, symbolizing your innermost being, the seat of your spirit. Then, from that place of honest vulnerability and courageous faith, speak this profound declaration, not merely as a recitation, but as a deep agreement with the heart of God. Say it out loud, with conviction, allowing the vibration of your own voice to reverberate through your spirit, affirming and aligning with the eternal truth of God's voice concerning your identity, your worth, and your glorious destiny. Let your declaration pierce through every lingering doubt and every whisper of the enemy. Father, tonight, in your holy presence, I consciously and irrevocably release the burdensome, fruitless need to earn that which you, in your infinite goodness and grace, have already so lavishly decided to give me. I surrender the striving, I lay down the heavy yoke of performance. With an open heart and spirit, I wholeheartedly receive my breakthrough, not as a payment for my imperfect performance, not as a prize for my efforts, but purely, entirely, and magnificently as the undeniable, overwhelming evidence of your unconditional, unfailing, and extravagant love for me. I step boldly and confidently into my God-ordained destiny, knowing with absolute certainty that I am profoundly seen by you, fully known, cherished, and intimately loved. I am not overlooked. I am chosen, handpicked for this moment and this mission. And I stand firm in the liberating truth that I am exactly where you need me to be, perfectly positioned and divinely appointed for this new season. I declare that every single moment that felt like a painful delay was, in fact, your precise, loving, and strategic preparation. Every rigorous test and challenging trial I faced was not meant to break me, but served as undeniable confirmation of your promises and my resilience. And every tear I shed, every drop of sorrow that fell in the hidden places, was not wasted. It was a sacred seed watered into the fertile ground of my soul, destined to yield an unparalleled harvest of profound joy and divine fulfillment that is now unequivocally coming. I am not only ready, but I am joyfully expectant for the magnificent, unprecedented, and awe-inspiring works you are about to powerfully do through me and in my life. I declare this truth, knowing it is sealed by your Spirit. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. If this word resonated in your spirit, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to know their waiting season is about to become their reaping season. Comment below with breakthrough declared, so we can agree together that your shift starts now.